What is expected of them? What do they do at 16?
Well, firstly, if I can say that as a former member of the Regulars, the Reserves, and now a Minister in the Ministry of Defence, I'm very proud of what the British Army and the British Armed Forces are. The standards and the values that we have are the best in the world. It allows us to say that we are the most professional in the world. And that actually goes right through to allowing us to have a very different offering for 16 to 18-year-olds. So they're not joining the army in the sense that many people might think. They do not serve in the front line.
This is an apprenticeship, really.
More than that, they will go to the Army Foundation College, or if they're a potential officer, they'll go to Welbeck. So they'll continue learning. They'll start learning a trade. They will continue with their education. They'll be learning discipline,
So Rachel,
teamwork.
why is that upsetting you now? I'm talking like that.
I agree with Tobias. It's absolutely, they're not deployed until the age of 18. We've never suggested that was the case. But it's misleading to indicate that it's somehow different to join at 16 than to join at 18. Apart from the prohibition on deployment, there is no legal or difference between those joining at 16 and 18. It is the real army, and often the material that's put out around enlisting at that age implies it's somehow a jumped-up version of the cadets, or it's a college. Army Foundation College is not a college. It's a phase 1 training site. If it was a college, it would be shut down by the government and have its funding removed because it doesn't...
I'm not sure what your point is here.
Because they are giving the impression in recruitment materials that this is a safe option, it's a soft option, it's not the real army. It is the real army. They do the same training as adults. That includes learning bayonet training.
But they're not being recruited at 8 years of age or whatever they do in Angola and being...
And we've never said that there's a comparison there, and that's offensive to all the people concerned.
So are you worried that we're training dogs of war? Are you just against war?
No, the point is there's a clear difference between 16 and 18 years of age. You can't join the police at 16. You can't join the ambulance service, the fire service at 16. The vast majority of countries in the world don't recruit from 16.
So why
are we doing this?
Of exposing, in your mind, 16-year-olds to, you were about to say, bayonet training or using weapons under, you know, a non-active situation, but in training? What do you feel the risk is?
It's not what I feel, it's what the evidence shows. And what the MOD's own evidence has shown repeatedly is that the outcomes for those who enlist at 16 rather than 18 are poorer. And the British Legion's evidence backs that up. The Defence Committee last week published a report talking about mental health in the armed forces and recognised that those under 18 were at higher risk of developing mental health problems, and people who are not deployed are also at risk of mental health problems. It's not all about deployment.
There is this myth that if you join the armed forces at whatever age, that you're more likely to have mental health issues or PTSD or be violent or end up with a prison record or indeed commit suicide. And when you compare it with the population as a whole, in all those categories, it's actually less. There's a perception that the armed forces perhaps is going to put you in danger. Actually, the absolute majority of people who join the armed forces serve well, leave well, transition well, and then serve the country again because they've taken transitional skills with them back into society. And that actually is a very, very positive thing. But on the 16 to 18-year-olds, we actually meet all our national and international and UN obligations on this. We are signed up to the UN Convention that deals with...
Why are you shaking your head? Is he just lying?
I think he is not expressing the fact that the UN committee that reviews the UK's adherence to the treaty he's referring to has said repeatedly that the UK is not fulfilling its obligations, categorically.
That simply isn't correct.
Yes, it is. It said it in 2016, it said it in 2008, it said it in 2002.
But the UN Convention makes it very, very clear that you're not allowed to recruit child soldiers and then put them onto the battlefield, which we do not do. Any individual choosing to leave the armed forces at any time can do so.
No, they can't.
And yes, they can.
If you're under 18, you have to give a notice period of up to 3 months.
So when you watch the telly at night, there's a very good ad at the minute, and I always look at it and think, gosh, that's really good, except I can't remember where the lad's from. It's for the Royal Navy, and it's something like, you know, born in Bradford, but made in the Royal Navy. And I think, gosh, that's a good ad. That really says it all. That must make you be physically sick.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's interesting because those adverts, they often say age that they joined, and none of them has said it's under 18. And that RAF and the Navy recruit very, very, very small numbers of under 18s. It's the Army which recruits the largest number of under 18s. And I'd like to just go back to what Tobias was saying. And I agree again, we're not saying that the Army or the Armed Forces cause all soldiers to have these terrible outcomes in life. That is the rarity. But the statistics show that among veterans who have the problems that Tobias is mentioning, alcoholism, suicide rates, those are statistically concentrated within those who enlisted under 18. People who are being recruited are already vulnerable, and they go into an environment which exacerbates that.
Point. Does it attract people who are already vulnerable?
We're very careful with the screening that we do to make sure that we're recruiting the right kind of people, and if there are any issues like that, of course we will address them. But I need to make the wider point, if I may, that where I hope we would be in agreement, Britain does more across the world to actually challenge the issue of child soldiers, of tackling poverty, of improving education, improving job prospects. In Africa, where almost half of the child soldiers are actually used in places like South Sudan and Nigeria and Somalia, it's Britain that is stepping forward with our DFID programs. It is Britain stepping forward with our armed forces to quash the civil wars that take place, not only put the fires out, but stay there to help the communities as well. And I hope that's agreed, that of all countries around the world, we do our more than our fair share. That goes back to the professionalism, the standards, the values that we put forward. Other armed forces around the world copy us.